The sun was a lazy smear of molten gold on the horizon, barely stirring the rust-colored sands of Varkin 9, and Sergeant Hawkins squinted through the heat shimmer, muttering under his breath about why humans kept signing up for routine patrols on planets that looked like burnt soup. Private Jenkins, hovering uneasily in the back of the armored shuttle, had already tripped over his own boots 3 times, earning a sharp glare from Corporal Martinez, who claimed he was trying to exercise caution, though Hawkins suspected it was more about showing off his impeccable balance while dangling from the zero-grav harness. The wind, or what passed for wind here, more like a hot static whisper, rattled the hull plates, and Jenkins swore he saw a sand sprite, or maybe it was just his imagination baking under the desert's radiation. Hawkins waved him off, though he kept one hand hovering near his blaster. "Relax, Jenkins. The only thing out here that bites is boredom and possibly that weird energy fluctuation on Sector Scan 3. Martinez snorted. "Or your sense of humor." Then she appeared. The alien woman stepped out from behind a jagged outcrop, moving with a grace that was almost theatrical. The soldiers froze, half in awe, half in disbelief. Her skin glimmered faintly, like liquid metal catching the sunlight, and her long ears, tapering elegantly to points that twitched as if sensing secrets, gave her an otherworldly charm that no soldier training could have prepared them for. Hawkins swallowed, muttering, "Well, that's one way to ruin my day." Jenkins, still pale, whispered, She looks like a human, but different." "Different is the polite word for this is gonna be complicated," Martinez said, adjusting his visor to get a better read on her energy signature. The alien woman's first words were a mix of sing-song alien cadence and what sounded suspiciously like English. "Greetings, humans. I hope you brought snacks. I prefer protein cubes, but I hear your peanut butter is adequate." Hawkins blinked. "Snacks? Really? We're in hostile territory and your first comment is about PB&J?" The woman's ears flicked with amusement. "Oh, I assure you, Sergeant, I'm deadly serious about my snacks and my defenses. But first, let's have a little fun." She snapped her fingers and a hovering drone buzzed into life, zipping between the soldiers with alarming speed. Jenkins squeaked and nearly fell again. The drone paused midair, sparks flying from its circuitry. "Ah," she said, arching a brow that Hawkins would have sworn was human-like if not for the subtle energy shimmer, "it seems your mechanical companions are temperamental. Watch this." She gestured delicately and the drone's erratic movements smoothed, then it executed a perfect pirouette before gently landing on the ground. "I call that a tactical reset," she said with a hint of a smirk. "Or, if you prefer, a dramatic flourish." Hawkins blinked, muttering, I think I like her already, maybe." The soldiers followed her into a cavernous formation carved into the side of a cliff, walls etched with glowing alien glyphs that pulsed softly in response to their movements. Martinez muttered under his breath about cave bioluminescence and potentially dangerous resonant frequencies, while Jenkins wondered aloud whether he should start a diary. Hawkins, ever the sarcastic one, waved his hand at the walls. "So, this is your office? Nice feng shui, very threatening." The alien woman's ears twitched in amusement again. "Feng shui, yes, threatening, only if you panic. But I enjoy seeing humans panic in a controlled, humorous way. Keeps the ego in check." She led them through corridors that seemed to shift subtly, as if the walls were alive and humming in low-frequency tones. Holographic panels projected constellations and schematics that defied human physics, twisting and folding in ways that made Jenkins' head spin. "I think my brain just folded itself," he groaned. Martinez patted him on the shoulder. "Don't worry, it happens, you'll adjust eventually." Hawkins, inspecting one of the panels, frowned. "Are we even supposed to understand this? It's like reading poetry in zero gravity." She smiled, the tips of her ears flicking like punctuation. "Exactly. My species finds creativity in logic and logic in creativity. Confusion is a feature, not a bug." And then came the first hint of her hidden prowess. A set of security drones, alert from the moment the humans entered, hovered tensely in the air. They were designed for combat, sleek with angular plating and red scanning lights. Jenkins' hands trembled near his blaster. Hawkins raised an eyebrow, muttering, "Well, time to test our training if we survive." The alien woman stepped forward, extending a hand toward the nearest drone. Her palm glowed faintly, a soft hum vibrating through the air. The drone froze mid-hover, lights flickering, then tilted slightly as if bowing in deference. Another flick of her wrist and all the drones powered down, hovering harmlessly like metallic birds. Jenkins audibly inhaled. Did she just? Hawkins shook his head. Yep, she just did that. And this, she said, lowering her palm, is merely a demonstration. You humans assume power is measured in brute force, but true power often lies in ingenuity and timing. She gave a small bow, ears flicking in an almost theatrical wink. And perhaps a sense of humor. I prefer my enemies amused rather than terrified. It's better for morale. Hawkins exhaled, leaning against the wall. Amused. I'm mostly terrified, but amused is close enough. Martinez muttered about the ethical applications of humor in combat scenarios, while Jenkins was already scribbling notes like he'd discovered a new religion. For the next hour, she led them through a labyrinth of alien technology, each room presenting challenges that seemed impossible but were solved with a combination of her cunning, minimal gestures, and occasional joking quips about human ineptitude. The soldiers' fear slowly transformed into awe. They laughed at themselves, at the absurdity of attempting to operate devices designed to integrate neural responses with non-human cognition. Every failed attempt was met with her playful commentary. Yes, humans are fascinating. Have you tried turning it off and on again? No, well, now you have. By the time they reached a central chamber, the soldiers had begun to relax, though Hawkins still had his finger hovering near his blaster, and the alien woman's ears twitched with satisfaction. This was her element, demonstrating the unexpected, teaching the underestimated, and keeping an edge of playful chaos in the mix. She tapped a small device on her belt, and the walls glowed, the energy humming softly as if the station itself was breathing. Now prepare yourselves, she said with a sly smile. What comes next might startle you, but it's nothing personal. Jenkins gulped. I have a bad feeling about this, Hawkins muttered. Bad feelings are usually the most accurate but also the funniest in hindsight. And as the hum rose, filling the chamber with a low, resonant vibration, the soldiers couldn't help but glance at her long ears twitching with anticipation. Somewhere between terror, admiration, and begrudging laughter, they realized one immutable truth. This alien woman was unlike anything they had encountered. Her weapons were subtle, her intellect razor-sharp, and her humor deadly in ways that no blaster or plasma rifle could ever match. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Hawkins thought maybe, just maybe, the universe wasn't entirely cruel. It had a sense of humor too. The chamber hummed with a low, vibrating pulse that seemed to seep into the bones, and Sergeant Hawkins shifted on his feet, trying to convince himself it was just the station settling. Private Jenkins, still clutching his notebook like it contained the secrets of the universe, kept muttering, This is insane. Corporal Martinez, ever the pragmatist, squinted at the panels lining the walls, scanning energy flows and muttering about field harmonics. The alien woman, standing in the center of the room with her long ears flicking rhythmically, seemed entirely at ease, almost bored, as though she had been waiting for the humans' mixture of awe and panic to reach the perfect pitch. Relax, she said, voice melodic with a teasing lilt. You're about to see something extraordinary, or, as you humans might say, utterly mind-blowing, and possibly mildly embarrassing. Hawkins raised an eyebrow. Mildly embarrassing, huh? For us or for you? She smiled, letting her long ears tilt forward as if to punctuate the humor. Mostly for you, but don't worry, I will be merciful. She reached into a small compartment on her belt and pulled out a device no larger than a human wrist console. It was sleek, metallic, and faintly translucent, pulsing with inner light like a heartbeat trapped in glass. Jenkins inhaled sharply. Is that it, that little thing? She gave a slow nod. This is my species' secret weapon. And judging by your faces, you didn't expect it to be so modest. Hawkins leaned closer, squinting. It looks like a fancy paperweight. The alien woman's ears twitched in amusement. Ah, humans and your obsession with appearances. Let me demonstrate, shall we? She pressed a single button and the room transformed. Holographic grids flickered into life, projections twisting and folding like impossible origami, and a dozen combat drones activated, their red scanning lights sweeping across the chamber in precise patterns. Go on, she said, voice light, almost playful. Engage them, let's see what your training yields. Jenkins fumbled with his blaster, muttering about safety protocols. while Hawkins and Martinez exchanged incredulous looks. The drones moved with calculated precision, ready to strike. But before any human could react, the alien woman waved her hand, and the drones froze mid-motion, hovering like metallic birds in suspended animation. Sparks danced across circuits, and an AI voice announced, "System override, alien ingenuity engaged." Jenkins dropped his blaster. She stopped them, all of them, just like that. "Correct," she said, tilting her head, ears flicking like antennas catching the frequency of their astonishment. "Power is not always about strength or firepower. Often it's timing, cunning, and understanding your opponent's expectations. You humans, for instance, expect brute force, and that is precisely why this works." Hawkins muttered, "So we're basically the comedy relief in your grand plan?" She laughed, a soft sound that resonated with the energy hum of the chamber. "Exactly, you provide the entertainment, and I provide the efficiency." She tapped the device again, and the room shifted. Panels that had seemed inert suddenly glowed with cascading data streams, forming interactive simulations of the soldiers' previous training exercises. Each hologram exaggerated their mistakes, looping them with theatrical flair. Jenkins tripping over a cable, Martinez accidentally firing a harmless stun round into the wall, Hawkins' sarcastic commentary echoing mockingly in the simulation. The alien woman's ears flicked in rhythm with the looping images, almost like a conductor enjoying her orchestra. "Observe," she said, "even failure can be instructive and amusing." The soldiers, caught between embarrassment and fascination, began to see the genius of the weapon. It wasn't destructive in the conventional sense, it was subtle, cunning, and surgical. It could neutralize threats, manipulate environments, and challenge minds simultaneously, all without causing permanent harm. The drones remained suspended, obedient to her will, while the chamber itself seemed to bend to the device's energy field, lights shifting as if following a hidden choreography. "Your humans call this a secret weapon," she said with a smirk, "but it's more of a demonstration of possibilities. I call it efficiency with style." Hawkins leaned back against the wall, rubbing his forehead. "So, let me get this straight. You can stop an army of drones with a flick of your wrist, make our mistakes look like a slapstick routine, and keep a sense of humor about it all." The alien woman's ears twitched with a subtle upward tilt, an almost imperceptible laugh. "Precisely, you see, fear is temporary, but respect and amusement last far longer. I prefer allies to be aware of both." Jenkins, notebook clutched like a shield, whispered, "This is amazing and terrifying." Martinez muttered about field integration and cognitive overload, though even he seemed impressed despite the theoretical lecture he was preparing. She moved closer to the center of the chamber and tapped the device once more. The suspended drones aligned into formation, projecting intricate holographic battle simulations across the walls. The soldiers watched as entire sequences of engagements played out. Waves of robotic attackers countered not by force, but by misdirection, timing, and the subtle manipulation of probability fields. "Notice," she said, voice smooth and teasing, "I never fired a single shot. Yet the outcome is absolute. The difference lies in approach, and in having long ears that detect narrative tension." She flicked them casually, and the soldiers couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of being schooled by an alien whose ears seemed to have tactical applications. "Okay," Hawkins said, finally lowering his hands from his blaster, "so this is your shock and awe moment. But where do we fit in? Are we side characters in your sci-fi sitcom?" She grinned, the faint shimmer of her skin catching the holographic glow. "You are more than that. You are participants in a demonstration. But do not worry, your humor and stubbornness are invaluable. Besides, I enjoy the contrast. Imagine the story without your human quirks, boring, predictable, and dreadfully polite." Jenkins mumbled, "I don't know if I should feel proud or insulted." "Both," she said, with a flick of her wrist that reset the drone formations, "is always optimal." The hum of energy rose, filling the chamber like a subtle heartbeat, and the soldiers realized that they were standing at the threshold of something far beyond conventional warfare. This wasn't just an alien weapon. It was a philosophy, a demonstration that the unexpected could be more powerful than brute force, and that intelligence paired with timing could change outcomes in ways the human mind struggled to calculate. Even as they exchanged nervous jokes about surviving the alien tutorial, the truth settled in. She was extraordinary, cunning, and entirely unpredictable. And now, she said, voice dropping into a mock conspiratorial whisper, ears twitching with a flourish, let's see what happens if you try to participate. I promise it will be educational and entertaining. Jenkins groaned. Hawkins muttered something about regretting his life choices. Martinez simply raised an eyebrow, already calculating probabilities for the next test. The alien woman smiled, a mixture of mischief and intelligence, and the soldiers knew one undeniable fact. The galaxy had just gotten a lot more complicated, and hilariously so. The central chamber hummed with residual energy from the alien woman's device, a soft, rhythmic pulse that seemed almost alive. Sergeant Hawkins leaned against a console, still blinking at the aftermath of the demonstrations, feeling equal parts impressed, terrified, and slightly amused that his normally sarcastic self had been reduced to slack-jawed wonder. Private Jenkins, notebook in hand, was already composing a dramatic entry on the psychological ramifications of alien humor in tactical operations, while Corporal Martinez methodically scanned every surface, muttering about energy harmonics and field stabilization. The alien woman, long ears flicking in perfect cadence with the hum, surveyed her audience with what could only be described as mild exasperation mixed with amusement. Gentlemen, she said, voice melodic yet teasing, it is finally time for the last exercise. Do try to keep up, or at least try not to trip over your own courage. Hawkins groaned, so the first two exercises were warm-ups. Great, I was just getting used to the idea of surviving without embarrassment. She smiled, the tips of her ears quivering in a way that suggested delight at his discomfort. Warm-ups are critical, she said. In my species, failure is educational, laughter is mandatory. And humility, well, humility comes naturally when humans are involved. Jenkins stifled a snicker, Martinez sighed, and Hawkins muttered, I feel like we're the punchline to an intergalactic joke, but I'll take it. At least I'm learning something. The alien woman tapped her device once, and the chamber's walls lit with holographic projections of distant battlefields, alien terrain, and fleet movements, all intricately layered. Your task, she announced, is to navigate this simulation successfully. You will encounter threats, obstacles, and ethical decisions. Your objective is to act effectively without causing unnecessary harm. And as a bonus, try not to make me laugh too hard at your mistakes. Hawkins rubbed his temple. So basically, do everything perfectly or we're fodder for your amusement? She tilted her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Precisely, but remember, your mistakes are often more instructive than your successes. The simulations began. Holographic drones buzzed through narrow corridors, plasma traps ignited at unpredictable intervals, and alien sensors tracked the humans' every movement. The soldiers ducked, dodged, and improvised, while the alien woman moved with an almost casual grace, her ears flicking as she monitored their progress. At one point, Jenkins tripped over a holographic projection and landed face-first in an energy field. Instead of reprimanding him, she extended a hand, and the field dissipated with a hum. See, minor setbacks are learning opportunities, she said, ears twitching as if laughing with him, not at him. And it teaches patience, which humans clearly need in abundance. Hawkins muttered, patience, right, that's the lesson of this alien obstacle course. Martinez, ever the analyst, noted, her interventions are subtle yet precisely targeted. It's efficient. Hours passed, but the time felt like minutes. The soldiers were exhausted, exhilarated, and increasingly respectful of her cunning. They began to anticipate her tricks, adapt to her puzzles, and even occasionally outmaneuver the holographic scenarios, though always with a healthy dose of awkwardness. Every success was punctuated with her soft laughter, ears flicking with amusement, reminding them that intelligence without humor was incomplete. Finally, she deactivated the device, the room returning to calm, the holograms dissolving into shimmering particles. Well done, she said, not perfect but admirably resilient, and you have survived the, shall we call it, entertainment with consequences phase. Jenkins exhaled. We survived, Hawkins muttered barely. But I think we actually learned something between the chaos and the jokes. She nodded, the glow in her eyes faintly reflecting the pulsing remnants of the device's energy. Learning is often hidden in discomfort. growth is found in humor. In respect, respect is earned, not demanded. Hawkins looked around at his team. Jenkins was scribbling furiously, Martinez was already calculating potential improvements, and even he felt different. He understood something he hadn't before, that adaptability, intelligence, and humor were more powerful than sheer firepower. That thinking creatively under pressure could outmatch brute force. That sometimes humility was the most effective strategy in the galaxy. And strangely, he felt a warmth toward the alien woman. Respect, yes, but also an acknowledgement that her methods, however unconventional, had pushed them beyond the limits they thought they had. The alien woman stepped closer, device tucked back into her belt, ears twitching in that perfectly measured, almost playful way. "Do you have questions?" she asked. Hawkins rubbed his chin. "Yeah, one, why all the jokes, why the theatrics?" She tilted her head, considering. "Because humor, Sergeant, keeps the mind sharp. It reminds you to remain human, flawed, curious, and capable of laughter, even when the universe demands vigilance. If fear dominates, clarity falters, and without clarity, even the strongest weapon is useless." Jenkins nodded, muttering, "So we're supposed to survive, but also entertain her, got it." Hawkins muttered under his breath, "I think we just got schooled by a long-eared alien woman with a flair for showmanship." She laughed softly, ears flicking. "And you've learned well." As the soldiers prepared to leave the chamber, they found themselves looking at her differently. Not just as a threat, not just as an alien adversary, but as a being whose intelligence, cunning, and humor had reshaped their understanding of strategy, power, and interspecies interaction. The long ears that had seemed peculiar at first now felt emblematic, a symbol of awareness, playfulness, and adaptability. Hawkins found himself smiling, a rare, genuine grin. "I never thought I'd say this," he murmured, "but that was actually fun and informative somehow." Martinez smirked. "I'll take that as a victory. We survived and learned, mostly." Jenkins scribbled "epic alien instructor" across the top of his notebook. The alien woman's voice floated after them as they moved toward their shuttle. "Remember, humans, the universe rewards ingenuity, not force alone. Respect, humor, and timing will keep you alive far longer than any weapon. And perhaps next time bring snacks I haven't tried." Hawkins shook his head, chuckling. "Snacks, of course. That's the part I was missing." As they ascended into the dusky Varkin 9 sky, the station fading beneath them, Hawkins looked out at the horizon, the last streaks of molten sunlight glinting off distant asteroid fields. He realized something fundamental had shifted, not in the galaxy, not in the alien, but within himself. He had learned to respect cunning over aggression, wit over panic, and adaptability over rigid planning. He had learned to laugh in the face of chaos, to appreciate the unexpected, and to recognize that even an enemy or an enigma could teach lessons no training manual could contain. Jenkins leaned forward, notebook brimming with hastily drawn schematics and observations, muttering, "I wonder if other species are this entertaining." Hawkins laughed, the sound echoing through the shuttle. "If they are, Jenkins, I think we just found the best instructor in the galaxy." Martinez, arms crossed, shook his head but smiled. "Next time I'm bringing energy bars that don't explode, just saying." The alien woman's words lingered, a soft reminder in their minds. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and infinitely humorous, and survival wasn't just about firepower. It was about ingenuity, courage, and the wisdom to laugh when chaos appeared. By the time the stars stretched endlessly before them, the human soldiers knew they had changed. They had glimpsed a new way of thinking, a new way of interacting with the cosmos, and a new way of respecting an alien intelligence that had challenged them, amused them, and ultimately transformed them. The galaxy no longer seemed merely dangerous. It seemed alive with possibilities, cunning, and laughter. And somewhere in the distance, her long ears twitched knowingly, as if she too recognized the subtle victory of shared understanding, humor, and respect across the divide of species.